Hey friends, so this is a video that I have been promising y'all for quite some time. I want to talk about the basics of astrology so that you understand what consists of a real astrology reading and what a chart looks like. So let's just jump into it, shall we? So, first of all, if I were to ask you what your sign was, you would typically tell me your sun sign. The sun stays in a sign for give or take 30 days. But if you pull up your entire birth chart with your time and location of your birth, you will get a full chart that looks like this. I'm going to use today's chart so we can kind of see what a basic chart will look like. And then we're going to get into some other graphics that I'm going to show you guys too, so you have a better understanding. Unfortunately, I have no idea how to edit this so that I can point things out to you. So we're just gonna go with it. All right. So along the outside, if you're familiar, you will see the zodiac signs. Each zodiac sign has its own symbol, and they're going to be along the outside of the edge of the chart. Now, depending on what time it is, this entire wheel will move. So they won't always be in the same spot. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Now, on the next little level where you see it's like a light blue color, right inside from where the zodiac symbols are, there's more little symbols. And these are the planets. Probably the most obvious one that you can see is the moon, and that's going to be on the right side of the chart, like somewhere along the middle. Hopefully, you guys can follow along. Right next to the moon on this chart is also the sun, and then you have all the other planets, including Pluto. Pluto is still a planet in astrology. And then there's some other symbols in there that we will maybe we'll talk about them, maybe we won't. This is a one-on-one video, so I'm gonna try to keep this as short as possible and give you as much information as possible. So now from there, one level in, you'll see those numbers 1 to 12. Those are called the houses. Each house in a zodiac chart will represent different areas of your life. When I first started learning astrology, this is what confused me the most. I understood what the zodiac signs are. I understood what the planets were. I didn't really get the houses. So basically, like I said, depending on what time it is, this chart will move and the houses will always be different. That is how you get your rising sign. We'll talk about that. Let's get a little bit more into the basics. This is today's chart, by the way, while I'm filming. One more level, the center of the chart is called the aspects, and these lines will change all the time, and it's going to show you how the planets are looking at each other through the chart. There are different degrees, so 90 degrees would be a square, and there's so many of them. Now, right in the center of the chart, that's where you would imagine Earth. Astrology is an Earth is in the center of the chart. How do you say that? Earth centric? Earth, what is I don't know what the word is. Leave it in the comments if you know. But in astrology, Earth is at the center of the chart and the planets move around Earth. And obviously we know that that's not the way that works. But this is how I like to describe it. Say you walk into a room. You are not the center of the room, right? But your energy is the center of the room. And that's what we're reading here when we read astrology. We're reading the energy. So you walk into this room and your energy is the center of your room, basically. And there's other people in this room, right? And there you would consider them the planets. So if somebody's sitting over here, the energy over here is a little bit different than somebody who's sitting over here, and they can move around the room and the energy will shift. And that's what the planets are doing. They're moving around the room around you, because it's also when you do your birth chart, you're at the center of the chart, because you're on Earth. Okay. So if they're moving around the room, the planets are moving around you. That's how that works. In astrology, the planets will go counterclockwise around the chart. If they are retrograde, they will go clockwise around the chart. If you know what a retrograde is, I don't know if we're going to talk about that today. Well, maybe we'll leave that for another video. I just want to get through the basics of what astrology is and what an actual chart is. Now, what can you do with this? There are tons of different kinds of astrology. There's also astrocartography, which I won't pretend to know too much about. I'm still learning about that. You can take your birth chart and you can put it on a map of the world and get kind of like an energy of what things would be like if you went to different places. There's horary, which is question based. I don't know too much about that one either. My focus is mostly transits. So I like to use transits for personal developments. If you see my other videos, I talk about that a lot, what energy is good for manifesting and reaching certain goals and doing certain things. There's also people who are interested in political astrology, and they will use transits to see what's going on in the big picture of the world. You look at different planets for different things. There's also synastry, which I really like. You can take your chart and someone else's chart and put them together, and you will see what the chart looks like for it's two different charts. It doesn't make one chart. So that's a composite chart. That's a totally different thing. We'll talk about that in a second. So yeah, so you'll take your chart and somebody else's chart, put them together on top of each other, and you'll see how the energies interact. Then you can take them and composite them, which makes one chart, and you will see how the relationship functions between the two of them. Natal astrology, which is your birth chart. I forgot to mention, I probably should have mentioned that first. Horoscopes, real, true horoscopes is when you take your natal chart and you take the chart of a specific day and you put it one on top of the other and you see how the planets out there are interacting with your planets. So when you're like reading the newspaper and getting just general, this is why astrology gets a bad rep, because like they just do nonsense sometimes for entertainment. It does definitely go deeper than that. There's also mundane astrology, local astrology. There's different systems of astrology. I prefer um, tropical, Western tropical. Then there's something called Placidus and whole house astrology when it comes to Western tropical, but I won't get too deep into that. But if you do know, I like to use both of them for different things. Um, like I said, it's a 101 video. So let's look back at the chart and see what else you can see in a chart. So we'll talk about a natal chart first, right? If I were to pull up your birth time, let's see if I can get one on here. Let's pick somebody's chart. Let's do Justin Bieber. The program that I have just has some of these charts in here already. So we'll pull up Justin Bieber's chart. If you're looking at a person's chart, somebody's chart, right? You need the date, obviously, the time, and the location. Like I said, the time is going to move the entire wheel, and that's going to put the first house, right? We talked about the houses. That's going to put a different sign at the first house depending on what time you were born. And that's how you get the rising sign. And that will set up the entire chart for which house belongs to which, or which zodiac sign is in which house when you were born. You can do it without the time. You just won't get the houses, so you'll be missing a lot of information. It's still possible. I get people all the time, and they're like, I don't know what time I was born. I'm like, we can still look at it. You'll be missing a lot, but you can still look at it. Now, I do like astrology for a natal chart. I will look at a natal chart with a client. You'll get really good information on personality, what's called the natal promise, just a lot of perspective, right? When I first started learning, I went to a woman for a reading. She took a look at my chart. She was like, I'm not going to read this for you. I'm going to teach you. And one of the first things that was really, really eye opening for me was my moon sign and how my emotions operated, because she just kind of like told me about it, and she didn't know me, and it was spot on, and that really opened my eyes to a lot of things for astrology. I tell people all the time, the reason I think I'm so good at astrology is because I really didn't want to believe it, and it has just proven itself to me over and over and over again, and you really can't argue with results. Anyway, so from the first house, you would, and the time, the birth time, and the first house, you would get what's called a rising sign. So on Justin Bieber's chart, he is a Scorpio rising. Oftentimes people will ask you like what your big three are in astrology. That's sun, moon, and rising. He is a Pisces sun and a Libra moon. You can see a lot of other things in this chart, obviously all the other planets, the aspects, whatever, and you'll get deeper into the natal promise and personality traits, stuff like that. Now, if I wanted to look at the transits for Justin Bieber, what I would do is I would add today's astrology on top of his chart, and it would look like this. And I know this looks crazy. So on the inside, not where the houses are, but where the planets are, right? On the inside, you have the planets of Justin Bieber's charts. On the outside of that, you have today's planets. So you can see exactly what planets are of today are sitting on top of planets, um, his personal planets, and what's going on and in which houses the energy is focused on, and what people are dealing with. And that's how you get a deeper, more personal read on astrology. While I'm here, I might as well show you what his astrocartography looks like, the map of his astrology. Like I said, I'm still learning about this. I'm pretty new to it. I mean, I've looked at it a few times over the years. I just never got as deep into it as I have for transits, just because I love transits. Um, but you can see the different planets and the different lines. And if I would, I wish I could show it to you live, like screen record what I'm looking. I'm gonna have to figure that out for another video. But anyway, you can see all these lines are planets that are going over specific parts of the world, and you can kind of tell like what the energy would be like for somebody at those parts of the world. So really quick, one more thing I want to show you guys. Oh, two. I think I have two more graphics actually. So the first graphic that we're going to look at is a little bit. It looks like the wheel, looks like the astrology wheel, and it's got the houses in the middle. It's got details about the signs right outside the houses, and then it's got the signs with the names and the little symbols. They're called glyphs. The reason I want to show you this is because when you're learning astrology, the first things you should really learn about are the facts about the. Don't even get into the houses. Yeah, you get into that later. You want to know, obviously, the symbols. You want to know the. Somebody's calling me. Hold on one second. Okay, so you want to know the symbols. You want to know what kind of sign it is. We'll talk about that. There's two different aspects of it. So there's elements and there's modalities, right? We'll talk about that. Yeah, let's just talk about that now. Right. So we'll start with Aries. So the reason I'm starting with Aries is because you can see here it is with the first house, because Aries really belongs to the first house. So the traits of Aries will match the traits of the first house, very similar, not exactly, but will match the traits of the first house. Will also match the traits of the planets that rule the zodiac sign. For Aries, it would be Mars. That's also something I wish I had a chart for you for that too. Which planets rule which zodiac sign. Do I have something like that? I don't. I don't have something like that. So that's also something you want to know when you're learning astrology. You want to know which planets go with which zodiac signs. You want to know the houses are deeper. So let's start with Aries, like I said. Aries, you have that little glyph next to it. It kind of looks like horns, sort of. And like I said, Aries is ruled by the planet Mars. Its modality. Okay, so we're going to talk about modalities real quick. You have three different kinds of modalities. You have cardinal, mutable, and fixed. Cardinal signs start a season. There are self starters when you're looking at different areas of life. They begin a lot of things, right? Then you have mutable signs. Mutable signs are in the middle of a season. So these signs are very good at moving through things, exactly what the name says, mutable, right? They're good with changes. Then you have fixed signs, which not so good with changes. Um, they are towards the end of a season, and they typically like things the way that they like things. Then you need to know what element a sign is ruled by, and Aries is a fire sign. Typically, a lot of people will know these things. This is kind of like information that a lot of people know. What I will say is most people think Aquarius is a water sign. It's actually an air sign. That's the one that gets the most confused. Now, each of these signs has their own traits, as I'm sure that you know. That's something you need to know when you're learning astrology. I'm just going to go real quick into the last um, graphic here because I don't want this video to go too long. And this is about the houses. I have completely, well, actually, these are not my graphics. I've had them for a long time. I don't know where they came from. If they're yours and you want to take credit for them, absolutely, whatever, but they're not mine. But on this graphic, the zodiac signs are completely removed from this chart. And this is just the houses. And this will tell you what each house represents. So the first house is I am, awareness of self, appearance, outward personality. The second one is money, possessions, values, skills. I have. The third house, mental activity, learning, siblings, communication. I think. The fourth house, home, parents, roots, inner security. I nurture. The fifth and the sixth house are both I serve, but fifth house is romance, children, fun, creativity, and the sixth house is work, health, service, self improvement. Now, the 10th house, people, some people will say work, it's career. There's two different things. So when I get to that, just keep in mind work is the sixth house, career is the 10th house. The seventh house is I partner, and that's partner with anything. Okay. It's not just romantic relationships. A lot of people will look to this house for romantic relationships, and you can, but it's not just that. It's any kind of partnership, marriage and other partnerships. Eighth house, I circulate, is sex, death, letting go, regeneration, other people's money, and sharing. The ninth house, I explore, higher education, philosophy, publishing, religion, travel, and law. 10th house, I achieve career, status, reputation, vocational purpose, taking power. 11th house, I aspire, friends, groups, goals, aspiration. 12th house, I dream, solitude, institutions, transcendence, self sabotage. Also, not on here, hidden enemies. And the seventh house would be open enemies. Keep that in mind as well. I do like to look at things for that too. Somebody who has, I'm just going to give you a tip, right? If you happen to have Mars in the 12th house, never, ever, ever, or in the seventh house, don't tell people when you're doing things. Okay, just just be careful. Anyway, I think that's everything I wanted to go over with you guys. Hopefully that makes more sense to you if you have no idea what I'm talking about in certain videos. I feel like most people have like a little bit of general knowledge and they're just kind of like, some people are just listening and that's cool, but I want you to really understand what I'm talking about because when I'm talking about certain signs, say I tell you Mars is in Aries right now. Okay, that's actually happening. So if you're watching this as it comes out, if you're watching this who knows in the future, then there's a different story. But if you're watching this when it comes out, Mars is in Aries, and I just did a video about the current astrology. So when you go and you watch that video or any of my videos, whatever video is the most recent, when I talk about Mars is in Aries and I say check your chart for which house Aries rules, because that's where the energy is going to be. You need to go to your chart and you need to see where Aries is, what house that's in, and what those things in that house represent from that last chart that I just showed you. Google is free. Okay, those graphics, I probably got them from Google many, many years ago. If you're interested in a more in-depth reading, you can book me at infinityauraav.com. Like I said, my favorite thing to do, I will look at your birth chart, we'll talk about that, but my favorite thing to do is transits, goal setting, stuff like that. But I also have tons of free content. If you're interested in a Tarot 101 video, that's probably what's going to be my next focus. I just want to talk about some things with tarot and some misconceptions. And that's just what I'm trying to get out there, because sometimes I'll have people and they're like, you do astrology? Well, what do you think my sign is? I don't know, because I don't know what energy you're tapped into right now. You could be tapped into your emotional energy. You could be tapped in. A lot of the times I will get the sun or the rising, or like at least I know if you're an earth sign, fire sign. That's easy. That I can tell right away. But some days you're tapped into different energy that's in your chart, and like you're not just your sun sign. With that said, I hope that was helpful. If you have questions, leave them. Maybe I'll do a part 2 and answer some of your questions. Um, and I'm Sammy. I'm at Infinity Aura Ave. It's been cool. This is my first astrology related video that's not just me yapping about the transits. Hopefully it was helpful, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye.